Hello, everyone. My name is Yongkang here. I'm very happy to be here to talk about a container migration made easy, how to quickly to migrate the containers from all other Kubernetes distribution, or could be from on-premises, or could be from other cloud to Amazon EKS. So happy to be here. I'm 3 times Kubernetes certified, including CKA, CKAD, and also CKS. Yeah, I'm also proud of being part of AWS Community Builders Program specialized on containers. Let's get started. So I'm going to give you guys a live demo to show you how we can quickly migrate the containers from Azure AKS to Amazon EKS. So first of all, I need to build a source cluster. So basically, if you don't have a AKS cluster, you can follow the link here. It's a YouTube video to show you how you can spin up a AKS cluster in a few minutes with just one command. And the automation code is here from the GitHub page. And from my target cluster, I need to build a similar environment from Amazon EKS. This is a YouTube link, and the bottom of the link, that's the EKS automation code. But obviously, to make it happen, we need to have a common S3 bucket, which can be accessed by both clusters. So there are actually a lot of challenges to migrate the containers. So it could be you want to move from on-prem to the cloud, or it could be from one cloud to the other cloud. So the common challenges are, it is very much time-consuming. A lot of the tasks are actually manual tasks. It will be, a lot of the, because it's, a lot of manual tasks, there are a lot of human errors. You can't really avoid the human errors. And the second point I listed here is typically it's not application aware. If you do the virtual machine, you back up the whole, Kubernetes cluster node, and then you recover to a different node. It might work, it might not work. And what we really care is the application. I might have MongoDB or Cassandra, PostgreSQL, whatever, any application database running inside of the containers. You need to be able to have the application aware. I need to back up the particular application and then move the application to a different cluster. And there are some other challenges like you can't really skip the version to do the migration, to do the upgrade. Maybe you want to do from 1.20 to 1.23, for example. Maybe you want to downgrade from 1.24 to 1.23. So there are a lot of challenges here. So basically, to slow down the cloud adoptions, and especially hard if you're running stateful applications. If you're running purely stateless application, you might use the GitOps, either Argo CD, Flux CD, or a Jenkins X. You might cover majority of the tasks, but when you have the stateful applications like the database application running inside of the containers, that becomes even more challenging. So there are quite a few tools available specialized on the Kubernetes containers. So Velero is the #1 free open source backup tool. And the second one, Kasten, that's the #1 commercial Kubernetes backup tool. And the third one listed here, Portworx, it's the #1 Kubernetes storage. And by the way, I copied the message from their website, okay? But obviously, Portworx also does the backup, does the DR, and also application mobility piece. So since I'm familiar to Kasten, I will use Kasten as an example. If you're interested, there are some other vendors also trying to provide the container backup or container DR application mobility software. So you might be interested to explore by yourself, but for my demo, I will focus on Kasten. The 3 minutes to migrate the containers, it's not a dream. So I recorded multiple videos earlier to migrate from one cluster to the other, one cloud to other cloud, from on-prem to the cloud. So feel free to click to find the links and to access the YouTube video. So here is a diagram of the lab setup. So on the left-hand side, I got the Azure AKS. It is running 1.24 on the latest version. And I do have a MySQL application deployed. So you might notice here, not only I have the MySQL application, but obviously you have additional multiple objects to support the application. You go to your service, your pod, your PVC. You might only manage disks. You have config maps, secrets, etc. I need to use Kasten to protect the cluster, the containers, and also to support the migration. So I need to have Kasten installed here as well. When I do a snapshot, basically we will take a snapshot of all of your application components and also your configurations plus your data. So which typically the PVC, persistent volume claim data. So once we take the snapshot, so in case something happens, you can quickly do the recover from the snapshot. But there are some challenges here. What if my whole cluster is gone, my whole data center is gone, or maybe somebody accidentally deleted the whole namespace, including your snapshot data, all gone. So we always recommend to send another copy to external object storage, which can be far away from your data center, which can be supporting your disaster recovery scenarios. So in this case, it can be Amazon S3, it can be Azure Blob or Google Cloud Storage, etc. And once we have the data sitting from Amazon S3, so we can easily to import to my target cluster. In this case, my target cluster Amazon EKS was running 1.23. I have a custom K10 installed here as well. So once the import finish, we will do the restore. By the way, it is part of one policy. We do the import, do the restore. Once the restore finish, everything supporting your application, MySQL will be migrated, or it will be up running from my target cluster. So how we can make it happen? To cross-version, cross-cloud, cross-distribution, because of the powerful transformation engine, part of the Kasten. Okay, let me jump to the cloud show to show you the actual lab looks like. So right now from here, as you can see from the screen, I'm actually just spin up the cluster by the automation. I will show you the automation scripts shortly, but literally just run one command. By any of the scripts, you are expecting to say, this is a link to access the web console. So let me launch the web console here and come back to the Cloud Shell. This is my token code and paste the token here. So first I'm logging. I need to provide the email address, the company name, and then click accept. I log into the web console. I don't have anything deployed yet. So I don't have MySQL here from AWS Cloud. And if I go to settings, I don't have the location profile. Actually, I do have a location profile, but that's not the one I was using for the migration. For the migration, I need a common S3 bucket from both cluster, from Azure Cloud and also from Amazon Cloud. So let me, technically you can go from the UI, you select, you give a name, let's say S3 migration, and then choose Amazon S3, provide the access key, secret key, your region, your bucket name. You can also enable immutable backup. And that basically can create a backup immutability to avoid a ransom attack. I'm not going to show you my access key, secret key. So what I can do is I can go back to the Cloud Shell, just run one command. So migration S3. So by running this command, basically we're using the YAML file to create the S3 profile secrets, create a S3 location profile. So once the job finished, you can see I do a refresh. You can see my AWS 3 migration location profile has been created from Asia Pacific Singapore region. This is my bucket name. So you might notice when I come back to Azure Cloud, you will see I will have exactly the same bucket name. So let me speed up this. So come back to the Azure Cloud Shell. I also have a similar environment. I just spin up a few minutes ago. If I click the link, actually copy the link to a new tab and press enter. And from here, come back to copy the token and paste here. So again, the first time, provide an email address, company name, log into Azure Cloud, Kasten Web Console. From here, slightly different. I do have a sample application, Yong-MySQL. That's my sample application. I want to migrate this application to AWS EKS cluster. So I can go ahead to create a policy, but before you create the policy, you also need to create the location profile to use the same bucket name, which is from AWS, from Amazon S3. Okay, so again, you can create a new profile from here, but I'm going to create the location profile from the command line as well. So migration S3, press enter, and do a refresh here. So you can see my location profile using exactly the same bucket name. This is a location profile, my AWS 3-migration. So we will use this S3 bucket for the backup target and for the migration. Okay, just to confirm, from my target cluster, AP Southeast 1, which is elastic load balancer from AWS, from the URL you can read, it's from a Singapore region, and we are using exactly the same storage bucket. So now come back to Azure Cloud dashboard. I need to create a backup policy to run the backup jobs and then export to the S3 bucket. I can go ahead and create a policy. I got a policy name here, and I can select how often you want to do the snapshot. You can make the hourly, you can make the on demand. If it's a one-time migration, you might choose on demand. But if it's a standby DR, you want to keep doing the snapshot, doing the export from a target cluster. You want to have a standby DR every hour, every 20 minutes, every 10 minutes, or every 5 minutes, do the import. So you can select the advanced options here. You can make it even every 5 minutes. So for the purpose of this, demo, I make the on demand because I just want to do one-time migration. Okay, I got my application selected by the namespace, but you can also do the label-based selection. Once you make all of the selection, you might want to enable snapshot by it's here. Enable backup by snapshot exports and select the location profile AWS S3 migration. Okay, once you make all of the selection, you can click create a policy. Before I click create a policy, just to show you the YAML file. If you don't like it, use the UI, so many mouse clicks, and also not to mention there are human mistakes. So you can copy the YAML file and then create the policy from the command line. So I'm going to cancel this here. I just want to show you how simple, how easy you can automate this AKS to EKS migration policy. So shortly, you can see we're going to create the backup policy. Backup policy has been created. We also kick off the on-demand backup jobs. So come back to the web console, do a refresh. You can see my backup policy has been created. We're not going to keep longer for the purpose of this demo. I only keep like a 4-hourly snapshot, 1 daily, 1 weekly. And I'm going to copy to Amazon S3. AWS S3, that's the provider, and my region is AP Southeast 1, that's Singapore. And my bucket name also showed here. So if I go back to the dashboard, you can see my job actually already kicked off. So once the job is finished, we can go to my target cluster, do the import, okay? So while the job is running, let me come back to the slide deck to show you what else. So on the high level, we just need 2 steps. So step 1, we create the backup policy, export policy from the source cluster. By the way, it's just one policy, does 2 jobs, okay? And we're using the same S3 bucket. In this case, I was using my migration, bucket for you, okay? Just make sure your S3 bucket from a source cluster and the target cluster are using the same one. Otherwise, you won't be able to read the data. Okay, step 2, I haven't done yet. We have to, wait the first job finish and wait the export job to complete sending the data to Amazon S3. And then I will do the import restore, create a policy for the import and restore from the target cluster. So typically you only need like, about 3 minutes. So MySQL application, the containerized application will be up running on my target cluster, Amazon EKS. Okay, just to summarize, what are the typical use cases here? So it's mainly to supporting your application mobility or portability to enable the cross-cloud portability or migration. So you might want to move from one cloud to that cloud. It could be from on-prem to the cloud, or even you want to come back to the on-premises from the cloud. Okay, also supporting the hybrid deployment. You might have some public deployment, some private cloud deployment, and your Kubernetes could be anywhere. So one of the biggest things is this way, you can also simplify the cluster upgrade. Instead of you do in-place upgrade, you just do the backup from your old cluster and then spin up a fresh, empty new cluster. We do the restore to the target cluster. It will be a lot simpler, a lot easier. You don't see many, challenges. You don't see many surprises. The reason is when you upgrade, let's say from 1.20 to 1.23, there are a lot of API changes. Some of these are already deprecated. So when you do the in-place upgrade, there are a lot of issues, and we can support the application transformation. So for example, from Azure Cloud managed disk to Amazon, that will be EBS. So you need to have the storage class transformation, and also allow you to move easily between test dev cluster and the production clusters. So by now the job should finish. Yes, the job finished. So if you click the job details, you can see my first job doing the snapshot. Click the job details, you can see all of these spec artifacts discovered here. So when it comes to recover, maybe somebody deleted configure maps or services, you can easily just take the individual spec artifacts to the recovery. So my second subtask to export, basically we are going to copy to Amazon S3, also completed successfully. The third subtask is to capture the metadata. So the job finished. Now what I need to do is from my target cluster, the second step. So from my target cluster, I need to create an import policy. By the way, if you want to automate it, it can be automated as well. So go to the policy settings. I'm going to click create a new policy. Let's say MySQL migration. And this time the action type, it's not a snapshot, it's import. But if I select the import, you will be asked to provide the token to be able to read the data from the source backup from the S3 bucket. So I need to come back to my source cluster. From the backup policy settings, there is a show import details. Copy the token here, paste to my target cluster, and it will discover your location profile here. But by doing this, we only read the data, but we haven't restored yet. So now we can restore. Tick box here, restore after import. So by doing this, not only we read the data, we also bring up the application containers. But very importantly, I need to apply the transformation. So minimum, you need to apply the transformation to transform your storage class. And because from Azure Cloud, let me actually come back to the Azure Cloud to show you. So these are my nodes right now. I was running 2-node cluster 1.24. And if I do the namespace list, you can see I got the MySQL application running here. If I do the storage class list here, I got all different storage class listed here. So I was using the default CSI, okay? But you do have other options here. And the same thing, if I do from the command line to node list, so from AWS EKS, I was running a 1-node cluster. It was running 1.23. And if I do the namespace list here, I don't have MySQL here. And if I check the storage class, I don't have the default storage class, but the name is not the default. It's EBS-SC. So we need to transform the storage class to match the storage class we are using from the target cluster. So come back to the custom web console. So we need to change the storage class to which name? EBS-SC. That's my target storage class. Edit the operation, create a transformation. And once we done all of these, So very importantly, so I showed you earlier from Azure Cloud, they do have a lot of different storage class, but I don't need to restore these storage class to my AWS, EKS cluster. So I can exclude the storage class configurations. Okay, add the filter here. So we're not going to restore the storage class configuration details. Once I did configure, select all of these, you can make it on demand, as I say. So for this case, we just do an on-demand one-time migration. But if it's a standby DR, you can select the hourly. You can make it also every 5 minutes to do the import of the restore. So for now, let me leave it as on demand. So before I click create a policy, just to show you, here is a YAML file. If you want to automate it, so this is a copy button. You can copy it to save to a file, keep control, create a -f with a YAML file, we will create the policy. So for now, let me just create the policy. Before I run the policy, let me jump to the command line. I'm going to monitor the job details. So watch the port status. And from here, now let me just run the policy. So because I make it on demand, it's a one-time migration, you have to manually to run the job. Click run policy, go back to the dashboard. You can see the job has been kicked off. Okay, from the command line, you might be able to see more details here. So you will see we're going to launch the temporary containers to process the job. Once the temporary container finish the job, we will do the restore jobs. Okay, while we're doing the restore, let me come back to the slide there. So what else left? Yeah, I'm including a few reference links here. So this is the first link, automation source code, all available from my GitHub page. And the Kasten documentation, and then the free training and the badges. You can collect all these badges by doing some hands-on labs. And then I got my, Kubernetes Singapore user group. That's the meetup group. I just set up, back in August. By now, I got 400 members. Yeah, it is actually right now, it's the largest Kubernetes Singapore meetup group. And I also have the Kubernetes data management group. So feel free to join me. And I also have the bottom of the screen, that's a Kubernetes group chat, from I was using Telegram. Yeah, feel free to join me. And last but not least, I love automation. I created a lot of the free automation tools. So Amazon EKS, that's one, and also some other cloud. That's pretty much all I want to cover for now. Feel free to connect to me by any one of the ways listed here. So I already talked about the Kubernetes user group, K8SUG.com. If you go to your browser, type http://K8SUG.com, it will connect to the meetup group. If you go to KASDM.com, it will connect to the LinkedIn, Kubernetes data management group. Okay, so let me come back to the command line just to confirm the job has been successfully restored. Yes, it has been showing here, Yong-MySQL 1/1, it's running, and also path readiness check. If I do a get namespace again, you can see Yong-MySQL just recovered, 99 seconds ago. If you check the details, so let's see what's inside the namespace. So you can see all of my stuff has been successfully recovered to migrated to my Amazon EKS cluster. I got a state of assets, I got a services, I got a state headless service as well. I got my pods also up running. So that's all good. If you want to monitor from the Kasten dashboard, you can see the job also finished successfully. How long it take? It take 2 minutes, 8 seconds. So by the moment we restore the application, it will be automatically discovered here. So originally, I only have a default namespace. Now I got the Yong-MySQL. That's my restored application, migrated from Azure AKS to Amazon EKS. I think that's pretty much all I want to cover for today. Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for watching. I hope it is useful to you. Feel free to connect to me. Feel free to ping me if you have any questions. Thank you. Have a good one.